You are currently processing about 74 gigabytes of information every single day. That is the equivalent of watching 16 movies back to back every 24 hours. Your brain was never designed for this. It wasn't built to handle the constant, low-level panic of the notification ping, the dopamine lottery of the infinite scroll, or the pressure to be everywhere, all at once, digitally. We are the most connected species in history, yet we are suffering from a mass hallucination that we are not alone, when in reality, we have never been more isolated. We are drowning in noise, spiritually adrift in a sea of data, and we are starving. But here is the paradox. The cure for this overwhelming addiction isn't to learn more, or do more, or hustle harder. The secret to unlocking your actual power, to physically rewiring your brain and reconnecting with the divine, lies in doing the one thing the modern world screams at you not to do. It lies in total, absolute silence. Let's look at this through the lens of someone we'll call Alex. On paper, Alex is winning. High-rise apartment, career on a rocket ship trajectory, a social life that looks fantastic on Instagram. But zoom in, look closer at the texture of that life. The morning doesn't start with a breath. It starts with a cortisol spike. The alarm goes off, and within 3 seconds, the blue light hits the retina. Email, Slack, news, Twitter. The brain is immediately forced into a reactive state before it is even fully woken up. The commute is filled with podcasts to drown out the silence. The workday is a frantic game of whack-a-mole with deadlines in an open-plan office where privacy is a myth. Even the downtime is work. Netflix is on, but the phone is out. Second screening, third screening. The mind is never, ever off. This wasn't just burnout for Alex. It was a spiritual erosion. It was the feeling of being a ghost in your own machine. Rich in data, but bankrupt in wisdom. Connected to thousands, but a stranger to the person in the mirror. And maybe you feel this too. That low-grade anxiety that hums in the background like a refrigerator you can't unplug. The fear that if you stop moving, if you stop consuming, you might have to actually sit with yourself. That is where Alex was. Rock bottom wasn't a car crash. It was a Tuesday afternoon, staring at a spreadsheet, realizing that the soul was running on fumes. And in that moment of quiet desperation, a memory surfaced. A grandparent sitting by a window, doing nothing. No phone, no book, just being. It seemed insane. It seemed unproductive. But it was the only lifeline left. So Alex tried it, and it was a disaster. The plan was simple. Set a timer for 10 minutes, sit on the floor, and be silent. But when you strip away the external noise, you are forced to confront the internal noise. And Alex's internal world was a riot. As soon as the eyes closed, the brain rebelled. It was like opening a door to a room full of screaming children. To-do lists, awkward conversations from 5 years ago, snippets of pop songs, the sudden, overwhelming urge to check the weather. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was violent. The body physically itched to grab the phone. It was a withdrawal symptom. When the timer went off, Alex didn't feel holy. He felt like a failure. But this is where the pivot happens. This is where the misunderstanding lies. Alex went online, searching for answers, and found the ancient distinction that changes everything. We think prayer is talking at God. We treat it like a transaction. Here is my list of demands. Here is my resume of good deeds. Please approve my request. But the mystics and the monks have known for centuries that this is the shallow end of the pool. True silent prayer isn't about emptying the mind into a void. It is about shifting your attention. It is moving from talking at God to being with God. It is the difference between giving a PowerPoint presentation to a CEO and sitting in comfortable silence with your oldest friend. The goal isn't to stop the thoughts. You can't stop the thoughts. The goal is to let them float by like clouds without chasing them, and gently, relentlessly, bringing your attention back to the present moment, back to the intention. It is an act of returning, over and over again. And when Alex tried this, not trying to be empty, but trying to be present, the dynamic shifted. The noise was still there, but it wasn't the focus. And for the first time, in the gaps between the chaos, there was a flicker, a tiny, microscopic moment of actual rest. Now, you might be thinking this is just a placebo effect, it's just relaxing. But this is where we leave the realm of feeling and enter the realm of hard biology. Alex needed proof, and he found it in the lab of Dr. Andrew Newberg, a pioneer in the field of neurotheology. This isn't distinct from science, it is the biology of belief. Newberg has spent decades scanning the brains of people who pray and meditate, and the data is undeniable. Your brain is a muscle. If you do bicep curls, your arm grows. If you practice silence, your brain structure physically changes. Newberg found that just 12 minutes of daily practice, 12 minutes, less time than you spend scrolling in the bathroom, can alter the neural landscape in 8 weeks. When you engage in this deep, focused silence, the blood flow surges to the prefrontal cortex. This is the CEO of your brain. It handles focus, logic, and emotional regulation. You are literally taking your brain to the gym, but simultaneously, something else happens. The parietal lobes, which orient you in space and time, and give you your sense of self, separate from the world, start to go quiet. This is why deep prayer feels like a connection to something infinite. The biological boundary between you and everything else literally fades on the scan. And it gets better. The amygdala, your brain's fire alarm, the panic button that keeps you stressed and anxious, starts to cool down. The connection between your fear center and your reasoning center changes. You are physically lowering the volume on fear. One study even showed that a mere 2-minute pause of silence lowered blood pressure and heart rate more effectively than relaxing music. But the most mind-blowing piece of data came from a 2013 study on mice. When exposed to 2 hours of silence daily, the mice grew new cells in the hippocampus, that is, the region for memory and learning. Silence doesn't just calm you, it might actually be helping your brain regenerate. This is neuroplasticity in action. You aren't just praying, you are rewiring your hardware. Armed with this data, Alex kept going, and the spiritual reality began to catch up with the biological one. The practice moved from the head to the heart. The silence became a mirror. See, we avoid silence because it shows us who we really are. It brings up the insecurity, the ego, the pain we stuff down with noise. But in that silence, Alex found a safe space to dismantle those lies. It was no longer about performing for God. It was about being stripped of the need to perform at all. It was a profound humility, a realization that you are not the center of the universe, and that is actually good news. It is the relief of letting go of control, and this is where the rubber meets the road, because who cares about a brain scan if you're still a jerk to your coworkers? But Alex changed. The transformation leaked out into reality. The stressful deadline came, and instead of the usual panic spiral, there was a gap, a pause, a moment where Alex could choose a response rather than just reacting. Colleagues noticed. The guy who used to interrupt everyone was now the one listening. The guy who needed to win every argument was now trying to understand the perspective. Why? Because silent prayer builds empathy. It regulates the emotional triggers that make us defensive and aggressive. Physical health followed. The tension headaches vanished. The sleep deepened. The immune system, no longer suppressed by chronic cortisol, bounced back. But the biggest shift was the death of the idol of productivity. Alex realized that his worth wasn't tied to his output. In the silence of God, he was enough, simply because he existed. And that freedom, that is the most powerful fuel on earth. This isn't just about stress relief. This is the power that allowed women like Corrie ten Boom to survive concentration camps and, miraculously, find the strength to forgive her captors. That level of supernatural strength doesn't come from noise. It doesn't come from a podcast. It comes from the deep, silent well of communion with the divine. It doesn't change the circumstances. It changes the person facing them. Alex's story is a prototype. It's an invitation. You are living in a war zone of noise. But you have a weapon. The science proves it creates a better brain. The spirit proves it creates a better soul. The secret power isn't reserved for monks on a mountaintop. It is available to you right now, in your living room, in your car, in the quiet before the house wakes up. It starts with the courage to turn it all off, to stop talking, and to start listening. So, I have to ask, what is the noise costing you? What are you running from when you unlock your phone for the 100th time today? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to understand more about how to navigate this intersection of faith, science, and the human mind, hit that subscribe button. We are just scratching the surface.